Put on the full armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of evil. And now, here's Reverend Sue.
Got joy in my soul. God is in control. I got Satan on my trail, but I'm singing all is well. He's attacking every day, but I'm watching while I pray. No matter the attack, I won't turn.
Good evening, and thank you for joining Sunday Evening with Reverend Sue. Today, we have a lot on our mind. Again, we have a special guest. He's a part of the production team, but I always said he's a special guest when he's going to input in the conversation, have an input in the conversation. And his name is Damon Mace. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Mace, to talk about some of the most important things that are going on in this country right now. A while back, just this week, and then another last week, and it seemed like it's every week that we're having killings. And it's really, really bothering me. It's bothering my family, it's bothering my community. I talked to my granddaughter the other day, and she said she just burst out and started crying. And then she got herself together, 24-year-old student. And so 24-year-old student going through, just college itself, graduate school, and then now dealing with so many issues that are happening to us today. And basically, the last one was the killing in Jacksonville, Florida, where a young man, a young person, went into the dollar store and shot black people, and then killed himself. I talked about it yesterday to some people. They said, "Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh, when did that happen?" Now we're going to get, I have so much to talk about. We're going to get into that, but this is just an introduction. Sometimes we're getting so familiar with the killing with our families until we don't hear it anymore. We look at it and then we keep going. We look at it and say, "Oh yeah, another killing." But today, hopefully that we can change our attitude and how we listen to what's happening to our people in our community. And I'm saying black people today because that's the target right now that I feel, black people. So, Mr. Mays, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Reverend Sue, for having me. And it was a very, very powerful topic, very, very serious issues that are plaguing the Black community. We look at Buffalo, where the guy went in the grocery store and targeted people. We look at just all around this world with police killings, shooting unarmed Black folks, even if they are guilty of crimes. But I mean, when you shoot somebody in the back, it should just be a clear-cut case. Like, how do you just get paid leave and then get exonerated? It baffles me. So we do have a lot to unpack. And that's very, very tough what happened down in Florida with the guy that went to the Dollar General and just shot people, just legally bought guns. I don't necessarily have an issue with people having firearms or anything like that for protection or for sport, but legally bought guns, but just went into a store or went into his job or whatever it was and just killed 3 Black people. And as I read the story, he had some swastikas on his weapons. He yelled out racial slurs and everything, and I'm just curious as to where this is coming from, where he was taught this, because you don't come out of the womb and say, "I'm going to be a racist, I'm going to kill Black people." It has to be taught. I'm really curious as to where the root of this really, really started. Was it from his parents? Was it from what he sees on social media, on TV? Is it just something that he's trying to copycat? I'm very curious.
I'm beginning to reflect on the insanity of racism and the powerful motivator, hate, hate, hate. And you know, you look at dictionaries and start thinking about the definition of hate, and the Webster Dictionary defines hate as intense hostility, hostility, and usually deriving from fear, anger, or a sense of injury. Now that's good and fancy, but you have a good point, is that you're not born to hate. You are not born to say, I hate that person because of the color. That is not, you don't come in the world like this. But as we, beginning, so you look at a society, you look at the household, you look at what being taught and not being taught in schools. You look at the history, everything that we do. And when I see a person that's, I hate this, I hate that. So I ask, why do you hate it? Why? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with your parents? What's wrong with the school system? What's wrong with the churches? What's wrong with the communities? Why is that? There's hate there. We're not a perfect world. God knows that. But when you start walking in different places that you know who's shopping at that particular store, that's planned. That's not you wake up and you say, oh yeah. No, you plan to do that. Sure. And it's too much happening here in this country. So the thing that I want to talk about is that one question I have is why the intense hate for Black men and women by white men and women. By white men and women. I don't want to say that there's various races within this country, but why is that hate by white men and white women when it comes to Black men and Black women?
So for me, in circles that I've had conversations in, you'll have a lot of circles that will really just put it out there that they're becoming the minority. And I think that they really hate that they're becoming, if not, they're already the minority. And they really, really hate it now because I believe that they see their stronghold, their power being stripped away from them, because things are not like they used to be, like back in the days when they really had their foot on our neck with all of the systemic processes that were put in place to eradicate and destroy the Black family, the Black man and everything. When you start with the interracial dating, interracial babies and all of that stuff like that, they become now the minority. And I think they really have an issue with that. And to go back to an earlier point you made, the church and schools and everything starts at home. Before they even step foot out of the house, everything starts at home. So you really have to consider what they're learning at home, what their parents are holding on to, what their parents taught them, those values and corrupt morals and corrupt values that they've learned from their parents, and they passed on to their kids. And you couple that, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I worked with a person years ago, and he said, my parents are racist, very racist. I said, wow. Actually, we first started out working, we shared an office together. Mm-hmm. He's white, I'm Black. He said, my parents are racist, but I have learned a lot since moving to Washington, D.C. area, mm-hmm. that the things that I was taught are so false. Mm-hmm. That's one person. Then I had a friend, and she said my grandfather was a KKK, member of the KKK. Now, at that time, I was young, and I've heard these words. I said, perhaps I don't want to be having a lunch with her. But she said, I understand it's different, because as I went to school and as I associated with different races, people versus my own race and my own household, my eyes opened to the fact that what I was taught is not true, not true. So what you're saying is that what you taught, sometimes you have the opportunity to change your thinking, to change your ways. And I would think that that's something that we should do. And we have to do it. I'm still going back to churches. I'm still going back to those Sunday school classes We're talking about books are not being issued, as history not being taught in the state of Florida. But I'm still going back to, what are you teaching in your Sunday school class? What are you teaching? What are you preaching? To educate our children about history. So when we see it, we know how to deal with it.
Well, I think
so is it, I mean, go back to, is it injury? Is it privileged? That's like you said. Is it jealousy? 52 weeks ending in January the 1st, 2023. 34 million units of suntan lotion was sold in the United States. That might sound a question of discussion, but all of this sold in the United States. I know cosmetics sold in the United States. I have cosmetics, but the suntan and the suntan, it is jealousy. I'm just putting it out there. Is it jealousy? Is it privileged? Of that, because the majority, and now that our population is decreasing, people of color population increasing. These are things that we're looking at. God said, love one another. I mean, that is the commandment that Jesus gave us, to love one another. And in this country, we're going to see a lot of things happening because we don't love. It was built on hate. But what are we going to do, knowing that we know the verse, love one another? What are we going to do within the Black community as well?
Well, let me say this, Reverend Sue. You know, that same Bible that you're quoting from, you know, it tells us there's a time for everything. And I'm just being broad. There's a time to laugh. There's a time to cry. And I'm paraphrasing. Forgive me if I'm not quoting correct. There's a time to kill. There's a time to do everything. And if we look at things like what happened in Alabama, that riverboat situation where you saw Black people coming together, I think we're in a different place now that they will have to be very, very aware that Black people are just not laying down anymore. That's just not happening. The days and times of Black people just laying down and just taking anything and just being beaten, and all that stuff is just not that's not happening anymore. It's getting to a place where it's like, okay, well, if I gotta die, I'm going out swinging, and we're coming together. I'm kind of seeing us come together. Like that for me was a very, very powerful moment for Blacks, the way we came together in that situation. And I think people just have to be on notice that, hey, listen, we're not starting anything, but we will defend ourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you know, a lot of Black folks are really, really considering these days, especially Blacks that are bearing arms. They're learning how to shoot. They're learning how to defend themselves. They're learning how to do a lot of different things that are in place that our white folks have been doing for years. So it's you just got to be on the lookout.
Another question I would ask a potential murderer is, you don't even know me. You don't even know me. I'm trying to make the best life for myself and my family. Does that offend you? Does that really offend you? Really? Really? Because you don't know me. You don't know my story. Always, you don't know my story. And you have the audacity, because you see my color, to shoot when you feel like shooting. Who do you think you are? You don't know me. That's the question.
And with that question, the tough part of that question is that them not knowing you is not necessarily the issue. It's the color of your skin and what you represent that potentially could offend them. The color of your skin, because they're not your color. They don't have what you have. They understand they're the minority. And as you're taught I believe as you're taught certain lessons from home as a child, and you ingrain this in your kids, that's the bad person. Anybody that looks that color, anybody that's that color, they could not know you whatsoever. But the subject is a person of that color is trying to take over your race. A person of that color is trying to take your jobs, are trying to take your women, your men. So you have to defend yourself against people that are that color. They could not, they could care less about the good person that you are and people that you help out and everything like that. They're offended by your color, our color. I'm not even gonna say your color, our color. That's the tough part about it.
Wicked politicians want to limit our knowledge by race and history. Our story, American history, is incomplete if it does not fully include the African Americans' experience. And our total involvement and contribution are written in blood ink, not pencil. It's not pencil, it's blood ink. Only someone totally insane would even suggest erasing the history of Black men and women in this country. You, as a Black man, have always been targeted, and the Black woman, we don't separate, but targeted when you walking down the street. You, as a Black man, have to cross, some people cross, you see people crossing over because you as a Black man. You as a Black man will go for an interview, qualified, more than qualified, because you're more than qualified, they say, oh, you're too qualified. Still happened today in 2023. Just like it happened in early 19, still happening today. It has not changed. This has not changed. One thing I would like to ask you, when you're out, do you feel the fear as walking as a Black man, just alone, in the suburbs or in the city? How do you feel? How do you feel now?
I'm going to give you a very, very honest answer. Very, very honest answer. And I think it's something that needs to be brought to the table along with this conversation. I probably feel more fear of my own people than I do of them. Because the generation that we have now is, I mean, I know how things were when I came up, but I mean, this generation that's coming up now of young Black men, young Black kids is incredible. It's, I mean, they will kill you just for nothing, just to kill you. Like, you could be walking in the store, who you looking at? What are you looking at? Even though that type of stuff was going on back in the days, but I mean, like, now it's almost like it's in style to do it. Like, it's you're supposed to do it. Like, if you don't do it, you're not a real person. And I probably have more fear. I'll tell you this. Fortunately, I've never been racially profiled, like in my car, pulled over by a white police, disrespected, pulled out, mistreated, or anything like that. Even in, with certain work situations, I could probably knock on wood and just say I've been fortunate. Not to see, at least blatantly in my face, any discrimination or prejudice or anything like that, any racism. I haven't had the
direct
any direct situations that have happened to me. But with Black folks, I tell you, I go to the store, I get weird looks. I go to this, and me, I'm glad I'm older, because the younger me, it would have been a different situation. I know how I used to do things when I was younger, but now I got a family to think about. I'm thinking about getting home. And my thing is it worth, getting into it with this young Black guy who has no sense, and risking not being with my family anymore? Is it worth getting into it with him, or is it just worth hey, yeah, you got it, okay? Like, what's the deal with, how come we don't really address black on black crime as well?
I believe this. I'm not a psychologist, but I believe that when we have hate within us,
Mm-hmm.
hate from a sociological perspective. I think that hate of living in the poverty, without care, without adequate housing, without adequate food, it brings on a feeling of hate, I believe, and hate within our environment.
So is that a justification?
We're not talking about justification. I'm just saying, when you said the crime that happened within our own community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the crime that happened in our own community is hate of the environment, hate of that we don't have. You wake up in the morning sometime and you are hungry.
Yeah.
That creates a feeling. That creates a feeling that eventually you angry with yourself, you angry with the people around you, and it creates also killing. Now you take the white boy who killed the people at the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
And you can name so many that have killed our people. The hate, the anger, right? So a point that I think that I'm talking for you, is that we're not born with that, but so we're saying there are reasons for it. Now, I have a doctor, I really like him a lot, because he said, have you ever thought about Reverend Sue as just evil? It's just satanic, it's evil within our country, evil, and not trying to discuss all the different things, but evil has entered into our environment, evil has entered into our community, evil have entered into our churches, evil, because we forget who we're dealing with is Satan as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, that a huge portion of it comes from just evil. I think the premise would be evil, because if you think about it, everything that you just named has just stemmed from an evil place. If you have black people growing up in the ghetto and they're hungry, and and those situations were created by white folks, that's evil. That's just pure evil. Wanting to control black people, wanting to eradicate black people, that's just pure evil. So to your point, I think that it all comes from evil. But the thing is, the point that I would probably want to make is, in our community, we know what we're dealing with white people. What are we doing as black people to get our black people to the place where we're not killing each other, so that we can actually focus on another race that's trying to kill us? What's in place? What are we doing? What leaders are out here fighting for black people to help them to get out of that place of hating, your fellow brother or sister?
Who do you feel they're trying to take control now in this country?
Who do I feel is trying to take control of this country?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the system that's already in place. You mean that trying to take control or keep control? If it's take control, and keep control, I'm just going to say the systems that are in place right now. Like, what's really changed? Now, I mean, if we want to get into a whole topic of, the U.S. and other countries, there are other countries trying to pull away from the U.S. But in terms of, if we're talking about the U.S., the current systems that are in place are still trying to keep and maintain control as best as possible.
I think the thing that you said, and hat off to you as far as a black man and never felt that you've been discriminated against. I mean, my son is black, and it's just different opinion, because it can be so subtle.
Yeah,
that we miss it. It's so subtle. Sometimes we miss it.
Mm-hmm.
We do live in a racist country. That's the matter of fact that we do. Have I felt it? Have I experienced it? Sure, I have, as a black woman. Sure, I have. Have I experienced, I would say, racism in my own with blacks? Because I don't think that we could be racist. I think we could be prejudiced. That's a whole different discussion. I don't think we have the power to be racist. That's a whole different discussion. But as far as Black woman, have I been discriminated against as a Black woman? Yes, I have. Have I in my workplace? Yes, I have. You know, on the streets? Yes, I have. But any opportunity that I have, I try to correct that as immediately as I could and bring it to their attention. Wait a moment. Wait, let's explain this to me. And that's just my personality. But we have to raise the voices of our religious leaders, the white evangelicals, and can no longer pretend they don't notice what's going on. Our Black religious must call out their fellow white clergy and hold them responsible, and complaint to this unholy, murderous outrage placed on the banks of African American. In other words, don't turn our head. You know, don't turn our head to what's happening with the white clergy, Black clergy. This is real. This is real life. This is not no dream. This is happening right in front of us. Just don't pretend that it's not happening. And how you come together in conferences, how do you come together in those meetings? And we all go and leave the meetings like nothing happened. Things are happening. Our young people are dying. Even in our community, like you said, yes. But we have to address it. And I'm not saying we're not addressing, but we have to address it. Even with Black community, we can't wait until a white person kill Black people. Like you said, we are killing each other within our own community. What are we doing about it?
And Reverend Sue, just on that point, I just think it's tough. You know, what I'm about to say is churches that I've been to and that I've been a part of all my life, they don't really address these type of issues. If they do, it may just be, you know, the news of the week. You know, we had a killing and such. We need to pray. But what are churches and religious leaders, Black churches, Black religious leaders really doing out here to help the Black community to stop the Black on Black violence, the Black on Black crime, the killings and everything? See, it's not a popular subject, especially when you're talking about getting tithes and all of that stuff like that. It's not really a popular subject. So, I mean, I'm just giving you just my experience. I'm not saying that that's the overall. I'm just giving you my experience. And I've done church a whole lot. And you very rarely, or at least I'll say I very rarely hear churches talking about different things to do in the community to help these situations and all of that stuff like that, Reverend Sue. I don't see it. I don't.
When you talk about, I don't like the terminology. I really don't like the Black on Black crime. Because we never ever hear.
But it's real.
Right, but we never hear white on white crime.
We got to address us. We got to address us though.
No, but that's a part of our society, our community. We as Black people never say white on white crime. White people kill white people
all the time. White people kill white people. White people on welfare. White people are poor. White people live in ghettos. So that's understood. But we have to focus on us before we can start focusing on anything else.
But we also have to educate our children as well. Is that that's history. White on white crime. Don't let other people control your vocabulary. It's sure. White. When I say Black on white Black crime, I don't say Black on Black crime. I say Black killing each other. Then I say also there's white people killing white people. I show them the total picture of what's happened within our country. Yes, we need to stop the killing. We need to stop the hijacking of cars and taking parts, and the young people don't know any better. They taking no parts and they selling them because they don't know how to take the parts from the cars. Pretty much, that's a whole different story. But as far as a Black on Black crime, every time I say that, I always say there is white on white crime.
Sure.
Vocabulary, the words we use, psychologically, they go into our children's mind and say, "Okay, we killing each other." And then you start hating us because we killing each other. But white folks are killing white people.
Right.
White folks are killing white folks. That's all I'm saying. So I know we're about close for time. Another thing is that we the history, I still go back to history, because I don't think we should wait until the governor of Florida and say, don't deal with the history books. We, as Black Americans, should be responsible if it's not happening within the school, and we should fight that, yes. Mm-hmm. But we, as a people, should be responsible for our history ourselves.
Absolutely.
Our history. And not wait for not one teacher or one person teach us our history. Absolutely. I don't care if you have to do it during the summer camps. I don't care if you have to do it at the Sunday school classes. I don't care if you have to do it on the playground. It's our responsibility to teach history to our children. There are some Blacks where I don't want to really get into the Black history thing. Yes, you do. Mm-hmm. I told my son when he was small, always remember who you belongs to. And that's Jesus Christ, God. And who you are a Black man, a Black little kid,
right,
all his life. And I tell my granddaughters the same thing. Mm-hmm. Always know who you belongs to. Mm-hmm. And that means you getting into the Word of God and understand who you are. That's very important. And I say, if you know those two things, you can go anywhere in this world you want to go. But you got to know. And that comes from teaching history.
Yeah.
Who we are.
Absolutely.
And we have fallen waiting for other people to do that.
Mm.
And now I just thank God working so many different ways, forcing us to talk about who we are. Mm-hmm. We're mighty people. We're mighty people. And to our listeners, it's a challenge for all of us. Things are happening so fast in this country. The killing. Where we shout. And don't you think they don't know where we shout? We have to be, number one, prayed up. I believe in prayer. But we cannot sit back and say, well, that was another killing. I heard about it the other day. I don't know what's going on in this country. No, you need to know. And we need to start. If you don't know your history, then find somebody else to teach your history to you and learn your history.
Right.
And the value of African Americans in this country. Mm-hmm. And the killing in our community, but the killing of people is not good. And I don't believe that God wants us to sit back and do nothing about it. Teach our people about who you are, young woman, who you are, young man. Because if you never felt discrimination, you live long enough, it's going to hit you. And when it hits you, it might knock you out.
Oh, yeah.
It will happen. It will happen. And that's not being negative. Mm-hmm. I don't care what university you're attending. I don't care what college you're attending. I don't care what elementary or high school or community you live in. It will hit you in this country. Mm-hmm. So may God bless you and continue to be with you and teach. Teach and stand up. And stand up and feel like who I am. I'm a child of God. And I will not sit back and do nothing. May God bless you.
I would never really lynch my and I don't spell it with an ER, I spell it with an A, cause that is not what we are. We were once kings till we got consumed by material things, womanizing all the women the material brings. It took us powerful, let's hear it again.
Look how far we've come from singing free.